everyone, my name is Deyaniracavazos and I'm an LPC-associate from the state of Texas. So if you're new to my channel, I make dedicated videos for other LPC-associates, pre-licensed clinicians, and therapists in training. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, definitely hit that subscribe button and join the Keep On Growing community. I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite books that I love to recommend to my therapy clients and books that I recommend to other therapists. So just to let you know, the list is ever growing. I recently just ordered more books that I'm going to be reviewing, and all of that is possible because I am now monetized on this channel, and that is thanks to all of you. So because you watch, share my videos, and especially like my videos, that is something that's really important on YouTube, because when you like someone's video, it lets the algorithm know that it should continue to be pushed out and shared with others. And so again, because of that, there will be more book reviews coming your way, more books that I'm going to be sharing with you and that I get to share with my therapy clients also because of you. So thank you so much, fellow therapists and therapists in training and those in other helping fields that are here. I appreciate you watching my videos so much. Now first, let me go ahead and start off with the books that I feel like I would like to recommend to other therapists, to you who are watching. And so the first book that I want to share with you is this one right here. So this is Advanced Techniques for Counseling and Psychotherapy by Christian Kant. And when I tell you that I highlighted almost everything in this book because it was that good, it was that good. I'm definitely excited to get more books by this author because I really enjoyed this writing style. I enjoyed the practical techniques that were shared and the examples that were given between this therapist and his clients. I loved it so much. And so to read you the back, it says, this book presents advanced techniques, concepts, and models that have proven to be both practical and readily usable for counselors who work with individuals, couples, families, and children. Dr. Kant provides in-depth coverage of a wide array of therapies, including metaphor, creative, projective, and classic. And so I believe that Dr. Christian Kant is actually the developer, the one who came up with yield theory. And so I personally just loved reading his techniques, and some of the techniques that I learned are still some that I apply with my current clients. Definitely so good. If your program doesn't recommend this book to you, trust me, it is worth purchasing on your own. It is really good. Now the next book that I want to share with you all is this one right here. And this is called Coping Skills for a Stressful World. And this is a workbook for counselors and clients by Michelle Muratori and Robert Haynes. And so the back reads, this comprehensive counseling toolkit for stress management provides clinicians with hundreds of client exercises and activities. It is true. Representing a variety of therapeutic approaches, this workbook offers creative techniques for helping clients handle traditional concerns, including anxiety, depression, anger, and grief, in addition to heightening present-day issues such as natural and human-made disasters, the misuse of social media, political divisiveness, social injustice, and mass shootings and other violence. And when I tell you all that this book was so necessary for me to read during 2020, it was so critical because there was a lot of confusion during that time, even in grad school, where some professors, you didn't really know where they landed. There was a lot of things that just were not okay. And I love how this book faces it head on. It has statistics for the damage that was done during the Trump era, during all of that situation, how POC and marginalized communities were affected. And it truly does give you practical tips, journal prompts, a lot of things that you can use with your clients. And a lot of this for my first year, I would modify. Some things I would directly just take a journal prompt, send it to my clients. It was so helpful as I was learning to really find my own voice and learning how to tailor things for my clients as well, and helping our clients truly develop those healthy ways of coping. And so when you do purchase this, it even comes with a card here, and you can go ahead and download the worksheet so you can send them directly to your clients. You can print them out, have them for yourself. So I definitely think this was worth the purchase for me. And at the time, I did not have a lot of money to spend on books, and I'm so glad that I ended up purchasing this. No regrets on my end. It was so helpful. Now moving on to the next book, that is DBT. So as you can see, another book that I just tabbed so much. There's so many things that are highlighted here. And so the contents of this book are theory, philosophy, and major goal of DBT, philosophical foundations, the empirical model, the 5 components of DBT, mindfulness, distress tolerance, emotion regulation. So, and what I also love about it is that it breaks it up for case scenarios as well. Like if you have a client who's dealing with depression, what specific DBT skills would be good for that, and so on, for anger and emotion dysregulation, depression, substance use disorder, anxiety, impulse control, trauma, ODD, conduct disorder, eating disorders, grief, borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder, and stress management. What I also love about the authors who wrote this is they specifically say in the beginning of this book that it is more than encouraged to tailor these techniques to fit your clients. And that fully aligned with me as a therapist, because I use a person-centered approach for the most part, because it is important for me to be culturally sensitive. So a lot of the techniques that I use are always tailored to fit my clients' needs. And that was really important for me, for any author to recognize, because DBT, and there are other techniques that can be very rigid, where you have to follow the specific program and follow the specific order. And I love how the authors tackled this and shared that sometimes you might skip over certain things, or you might need to really tailor and edit it to fit your clients. And so that is what I do to this day. I do not follow a specific order when I implement DBT. I just pull from it and I use certain techniques that I think could benefit and fit my client, and I invite my client to participate in that and to try it and to see how it feels. And so this is actually the 2nd edition. I also have the 1st edition, and it was not worth it to me personally. It might be to someone else, but I feel like this one was just more than enough. The other one's a lot more bulky, and the information's very repetitive and not as helpful. At least it wasn't for me. And so I personally really love the 2nd edition. Now, the next book that I want to share with you is this CBT Workbook for Kids. And this is by Heather Davidson. So if you can see, this is the cover right here. And it says 40 plus fun exercises and activities to help children overcome anxiety and face their fears at home, at school, and out in the world. I have really enjoyed using this with children at the time when I worked with children, and also with my adolescents, and just tailoring it more to fit certain topics for my adolescents. But it does come with a lot of good graphs, resources, and what I really enjoyed doing was just scanning specific pages and then sharing them with my clients through our client portal. Or we would have a specific day where I would sit down and do a little quiz with them to see how, their anxiety is developing and how things are changing for them. Or we would have a moment during session and work through one of the activities. So I personally really enjoyed this. There is a point where a lot of sheets get very repetitive, but I still personally don't regret buying this workbook. I think it's been really helpful for me and my clients, but just note that, a lot of things do start to get very repetitive. Okay, everyone, so now let's go ahead and move into a separate category of books, and let's talk about the books that I avidly recommend to my therapy clients. And it's super important to note the population that I work with, because maybe some of these books wouldn't be some that you'd recommend to your clients because you have another population that you work with. But nonetheless, here I am sharing with you what I share with my Latina clients. So the first book that I want to share with you is one that I just talked about in a recent vlog where I reviewed the book, and that is You Sound Like a White Girl, A Case for Rejecting Assimilation by Julissa Arce. And so this is a 5 out of 5 star read for me. It's something that I'm really going to enjoy recommending to my therapist clients because it touches on Mexican American history. This is a manifesto where the author basically presents her case as for why we should reject assimilation as Latinas, as Latinos, or Latino folks, describing and giving personal examples as well as to why assimilation is so damaging. And so the context described are part 1, the lies we're told, the lie of whiteness, the lie of English, the lie of success. Part 2, embracing our truth, reclaiming our history, reclaiming our identity, Reclaiming Our Culture, and then the last words in the postscript. And when I read this book, instantly I thought, I wish I would have had this book when I was in high school, when I was graduating, going to school, because I didn't learn about my own Mexican history and the full depths of my cultural history until I really took a Borderlands class and I started learning a lot about my history. I chose that class over philosophy, no regrets. To this day, that class was life-changing for me. And that is the point that this author is trying to make, that when we erase a person or a whole culture, we affect people beyond belief. And so I have no doubt that for clients who maybe haven't embraced that part of themselves because they've been forced to assimilate, and I have seen it for a lot of my own therapy clients where they didn't necessarily grow up wanting to assimilate, but they were forced to in order for their own protection historically, or also because a lot of parents felt that that was giving them their best shot or best opportunity, and it's affected so many Latina women. And so I'm definitely really looking forward to be able to recommend this. And this author also has a lot of other books dedicated to her own experience as an undocumented immigrant living in the States and her journey through corporate America and what she had to do to be there. And so this specific book is one that I would also recommend to therapists who are not Latino, who are going to be working with the Latina culture. It is so important to know the history and how that impacts the culture and people today. And so please, for the love of all things that are good in this world, do not read something like American Dirt. Whenever I see this book anywhere, I always turn it over because it has been so damaging for the community, and a lot of people don't even know. It is not written by a Latina author and has profited off of undocumented immigrants and has been praised so much. And so for people who have been writing about these topics from the community themselves for years upon years, it was very insulting, continues to be insulting. So if you're wanting to learn about the culture, definitely do not read that book. They are told from the perspectives of those of the community, and those are the books, including this one, that you want to be reading when you're helping the community. And especially because it puts you in a place where you have to let your fragility go and you have to gradually work through it and acknowledge your privilege and acknowledge how you can truly be helpful. And so I wanted to recommend those books because some of you have asked me before, knowing that you are not Latina and you will be working with this population and you truly desire to do your best work with this population. And so I hope you find these recommendations helpful, that you learn from them, so that way when you meet with your clients, it feels like you have more of a broad understanding and empathetic lens toward your clients. Now moving on, the next two books are complete gems. These are books that have helped me in my own personal life, and when I read them back in 2020, I knew instantly that these were going to be favorites that I was going to recommend to my own therapy clients one day. And it is these books right here: 12 Ways to Cope with Your Latina Mom and Her Difficulties, a Guided Journal, and 12 Ways to Cope with Your Latino Dad and His Difficulties, a Guided Journal. And these amazing books are written by the author Jasmine Cepeda, who is also an LCSW from the Bronx, and I have had the pleasure of talking to her through Instagram, and she just seems like the nicest person who has made such a huge impact by writing these books, and I am so grateful for them. And so this guided journal touches on topics such as Latinx, a label that's trying, the intentions for this guide, a note for mothers, note for dads, ending intergenerational trauma, deciding to have kids or not, choosing the best partner, part 1, self-validation, and really breaking down what that looks like, abusive behavior, identifying your unmet childhood needs, part 2, remothering and self-protection, setting healthy boundaries, gaining your power back. In my own personal life, this was a book that was so helpful and important to me when I was first getting married and trying to figure out what new healthy boundaries I wanted to set with my family. And so because I love this book so much, I love recommending it to my own therapy clients. So yes, 5 out of 5 stars. I love these books so much, and I will forever be recommending these books to my clients. It is so good. Now moving on to the next book. This to me, and I've said it once, I will say it again, is the Setting Healthy Boundaries Bible. in my own opinion, because it truly comes with step-by-steps and specific scenarios of how you can apply healthy boundaries, why it's important, what they are, how to maintain them, manage them, what to do, in certain scenarios. And so that is Set Boundaries, Find Peace, A Guide to Reclaiming Yourself by Nidra Glover Tawwab. And I follow this therapist on Instagram, and always spitting pure facts, pure truth, so much wisdom. I love everything that this therapist and author does, just so wise. There's also a new book coming out that I cannot wait to read, so I will definitely be reviewing that for you all. But just to read the context to you, it says, Part 1, Understanding the Importance of Boundaries, What the Heck are Boundaries, The Cost of Not Having Healthy Boundaries, Why Don't We Have Healthy Boundaries, The 6 Types of Boundaries. I love chapter 4. So good. I love all of it, but I mean, chapter 4 really dives into the different categories of boundaries, what boundary violations look like, identify and communicate your boundaries, blurred lines, make it plain, trauma and boundaries, what are you doing to honor your boundaries, this is how we do the work of setting the boundaries, family, romantic relationships, friends, work, social media and technology. There's even a self-assessment quiz, commonly asked questions. And for me, like I've said before in my videos, it is so important to seek out authors and therapists who are also POC, who understand the importance of a collectivist culture and not just a westernized, individualized culture, because that is something that is very important when I work with my own therapy clients, is keeping that collectivist culture in mind. So this is also written by a POC author and therapist. Now moving on to the next book, that is Mariposa by Kim Guerra, and this is such a beautiful work of art by someone who is also actually a therapist and an author. She is Mexican American, she is Latina as well, and this poetry is just beautiful. This is actually the first poem book that I have ever purchased where I saw myself and my culture represented beautifully and authentically. And I love that it touches on topics of, culture, representation, privilege, colorism within the culture, womanhood, creativity, self-love, religious trauma. And it's also important to note that this author doesn't shy away from talking about spirituality or her relationship with her higher power, with God. And so this isn't necessarily a book that I'd recommend to every single one of my clients if I knew that something like that would be triggering for them. But so far, this book has been one that a lot of my clients have enjoyed. Or what I'll specifically do is share with them specific poems that I know will be helpful depending on what they've shared with me or the topics that they're interested in. And I'll have them do like a journal prompt reflection having to do with the poem, and that'll be a homework exercise that I use. And what I also love about poetry, where clients can see themselves represented, is that if they're having trouble with their self-talk, it's very demeaning or hurtful or even just non-existent, and they're truly not used to being active participants in their self-talk, I love using a poetry book like this because it teaches clients what self-love can look like, what it can sound like. By reading these poems, they can see these words, these phrases, these sentences resemble self-love. Let me try implementing them or creating an affirmation from them. So I really enjoy using this for clients, and I'm telling y'all, this is the creative part of being a therapist that I love so much. I personally really love using that with my clients because storytelling culturally for the Latina culture is very, very important. So I use a lot of metaphors in session as well that I create myself. So yes, 5 out of 5 stars, and I can't wait to read more of her poetry collection. Now, the last 2 books that I want to share with you fall within the YA category, and so these are books that I actually read as an adult and I would recommend to other adults or other adolescents as well. They're so good. And so the first one a lot of people have heard of, it's very well known within our community, and that is I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erica L. Sanchez. The first time that I read this book was the first time that I ever felt myself represented. And this piece of literature is so important within the community because it touches on mental health topics and the pressures that come with being a Mexican daughter to have to be perfect, to not be allowed to make mistakes, and how that impacts your mental health. And so you follow a main character, and through this storytelling you're able to learn a lot about mental health and her experiences, certain things within her own community and the impacts that that has in her relationship with her mother. And there's always someone who hasn't read it yet, so I love recommending it so much. Now, the last book that I have to share with you all is called How Moon Fuentez Fell in Love with the Universe, and this is by Raquel Vasquez Gilliand. This book to this day is one of my favorite books that I have ever read. Me and my younger sister actually ended up doing a book swap, and I recommended this book to her, and she cried all the tears just as much as I did. It is a very heartfelt YA romance, and also has to do with found family, Mexican culture, that mother wound that is within mothers and daughters within the Mexican culture, generational trauma, found family, so learning what healthy boundaries are within family. You follow the main character, Moon Fuentez, throughout her own self-love journey and watch her gradually allow herself and learn what it means to be able to heal and embrace, a new definition of what family can be, while also still embracing her culture and the things that she loves, and giving herself the opportunity to follow her dreams. And so again, this falls within the storytelling realms. A lot of my clients learn a lot through storytelling, and I would actually pair this book with the next book that I'm going to be sharing with you, and it is Breaking the Good Girl Myth by Majo Molfino. And so I do have the physical copy, but the reason why I don't is because I actually just lent it to my younger sister. She's going to be reading it, and I specifically told her that it is the book that I wish that I had when I was 18, in my early 20s, really dealing with a lot of imposter syndrome. That book really goes into why as a Latina we deal with these feelings of self-doubt, societally, how we have been impacted, and the outdated rules that come from this patriarchy that truly impacts us and that hurts everyone, including Latino men as well as Latina women. And so the reason why I say that these two books would pair very well together is because they touch on very similar topics, and I think it is one of the perfect reading combos if you're trying to tackle all of these topics together, because you get one book that is very much fiction and you learn through storytelling and following a character and seeing what implementing these things could possibly look like. You get to imagine that, and that is so important, because within the Latino culture there are a lot of us who are breaking certain generational patterns for the first time and may not even know what it looks like at the other end. So being able to reimagine that, or to imagine that and see what that could be like, can be very healing and very impactful. And I love pairing it with this other book because you get a lot of more of that education and breakdown as to specifically why these things can be implemented, how they can be implemented. And so that is it for this video, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed learning about the different books that I personally love to recommend to other clients, that I would recommend for other therapists. All of these books are going to be linked down in my description box. And I recently also added a lot of these books to my website, so my own clients can also shop from my website for these books as well, and so can you. Like I said, there are definitely so many more book recommendation videos coming your way. I'm going to take my time, so if you want a lot more of that journey, definitely watch my Days in the Life or Day in the Life therapist videos, because I'll definitely be sharing the books throughout there and book reviews, and then collectively I will share all of them with you in another video in the future, just like this one. Let me know down below if any books sound interesting to you, or if you have any book recommendations as far as books that you think I would enjoy or that my clients could possibly enjoy. Definitely let me know and other therapists know down in the comment section. Take care, everyone, and I will go ahead and see you in my next video. Bye.